Good afternoon, guys, and thank you very much for having me here. And I have a hard model to follow. Salman, you did a great job. Very well done. Uh, Thank you, guys, for introducing me. I changed. I think it's what impress karna chahiye. Need to impress people. Okay, since we are talking of identity, I'm calling my thing as the identity kaleidoscope because our identity keeps infinitely changing in terms of evolving. The base identity still remains the same, but we keep evolving. I went to the National Defense Academy. It's a unique institution. So I went to the National Defense Academy sort of uh, with a very big misconception that I won't have to study so much. Going to the army, what the hell? Shouldn't. Our biggest misconception. The NDA is a unique institution. For those of you who don't know, the National Defense Academy is the only institution in the world which trains all three services together: Army, Navy, Air Force, before they become officers. There are a number of institutions where only officers train, which are tri-service, but NDA is the only one at cadet level which trains all three services. Now, having got to NDA, I realized I was an absolute fool thinking that I'm going to run away from books. They take you to graduation level in all subjects, except for biology. Thank God for that. Otherwise, I would have never passed out of NDA. And even I was talking to your Dr. Jory. We do 2 years of engineering drawing. We do 6 months of carpentry, all cadets. 6 months of tinsmithy, 6 months of forging and welding, and 6 months of machine work, making lathes, making gears, things like that. The idea is not that they're making us mechanics, because the idea of the National Defense Academy is to create an officer, a gentleman, now ladies as well. The first lot of ladies have passed out in December from the NDA, first lot, and leaders. So if you want to be an officer and a gentleman and a leader, you must be all round, you must be whole. Therefore, it's important for us to know everything. You may not have to do it, but you'll be supervising. So you should be able to supervise. And that's how it carries on. And we train throughout our lives. I was sharing with one of you here now. I think 2 months before I retired, I ran a command level workshop on intuition in leadership, because that's one of my subjects. Just before that, because we're training all the time, irrespective of rank. Lieutenant generals also keep going for courses. There's an institution I went to called the College of Defense Management, where we have a 2-week seminar for only major generals. So it's all the time training. And why is this training required so much? We also have a thing called the battle drills and battle procedures. Battle drills are instant action, and battle procedures are simultaneous actions at all levels. Unlike Salman, no? Have I spelled you wrong? Right? Right, no, Salman. We don't have the luxury of postponing. Because when we mobilize for war, it's actually a bit difficult for you to imagine. I will only take an infantry battalion's case, which has the least amount of equipment. We mobilize for war in 6 hours, which means drawing weapons, drawing ammunition, loading trucks, getting civil trucks from the roads, unloading them, requisitioning them, bringing them in, rations, people who are on leave, we send out call letters, telegrams, etc., etc. But we are ready for war. This can only happen when things can happen like that. And that is what are the seeds of training that are set in us from the NDA days. And that's where we start becoming aware, we start becoming curious, and we start enacting things. And you're reading, you're doing other things. The NDA does not have a change. We have examinations. Every 6 months you have to pass and go to the next term. But except for those 2 hours of the exam, nothing in the routine changes. You have the same outdoors, same in the evening. A little bit of the outdoor work reduces in the morning, but everything else the same, 10, 15 lights out. There's no prep team, no study till 1 o'clock in the morning, because there everything is very quick. Your reward and punishment is very quick, right? You're caught with your lights on, 10, 15, you're front rolling for the next hour. So it's a very effective way of getting things done in time. Now, what does this bring us to as an army guy? And it gives us a lot of experiences, a lot of awareness. And as you keep growing, you keep also getting more and more different experiences. Now, since we are talking identity kaleidoscope, you know about the great Indian banyan tree, which is in Calcutta, at the Shibpur Botanic Gardens. There is nothing in that banyan tree which is the original. No root, no trunk, nothing is the original. But it's still the great Indian banyan tree, known all over the world, right? But things carry on like that, but we are perpetually evolving. And that is why this training and retraining, looking at things in different ways, different perspectives, it's always there. But let me give you a few examples before I shift to my own change, which is what everybody is keen to know. How did I shed my uniform and not feel any different? Some of the examples that I want to talk about is I took a team of full colonels from the College of Defense Management. I was a faculty member, and there were 7 colonels or Navy and Air Force equivalents on the course. And we were visiting Tata Steel. And Rusi Modi had written to us, look, please change that you come to Jamshedpur later, do Calcutta first, because I would like to be present. And this for you young people are very important. 2 things happened in Jamshedpur. One, the first day we reached, the evening, there was a cocktails and dinner where other than Rusi Modi and us 8 officers and our LO, all the other boys and girls were the graduate trainees. And Rusi Modi had personally briefed them, I'm giving you the chance of a lifetime. This much of experience in one place you will never be able to see. So that's the credit that goes to the armed forces, because people even at that stage recognize. But now came the rub. When we went to Rusi Modi after having visited in the morning, Rusi Modi, I don't know how many of you know about it. Yes, he, by the way, as I was telling other people, he did make his 12-egg omelette every day and ate it. That is true. But Rusi Modi never talked to anybody for more than 10 minutes, not even his resident director. Now the whole of Tata Steel was wondering, what the hell is happening today? 45 minutes. Which is this group? It's not business. It's not a foreign delegation. Because he got so involved. Now, once we had interaction had finished, he asked us, do you have any questions for me? So one of the participants asked, I thought it was a very nice question, that how do you create this environment of motivation in such a big factory? At that particular time, they had 53,000 workers. Create this environment of motivation that Tata Steel has not had a single day strike. Despite the fact Subhash Chandra Bose was a union leader of Tata Steel once upon a time. He swiveled, and he's a big man. Huh? So we have this big back of Rusi Modi, and there are 9 of us, including the LO, and he's looking at his bookshelves. Total silence. And we said, what the hell? I thought it was a good question. After 30 seconds, he turns around. He said, I'm not answering this question. This is my question to you. I can give them housing, I can give them schools, I can give them bonus, I can give them incentives, increments. You can't give a fig. And yet, your troops, knowing fully well the chances of dying are pretty high, they would still go. How do you achieve that? Now, frankly, till then, I had never given it such a serious thought. But here I was with a very elite team, sort of. So I said, must give an answer. So I said, sir, I can try and answer your question if I can give you an anecdote. He said, yes. I said, so when I'm a battalion commander, I command about 869 people. But give and take people on leave and courses and all. So we normally would have about 650, 700 in the unit. If somebody knocks on my door and says, Jain sir, aa jaun, 85 to 90% of the time, I can call him in by name. Rusi Modi said, I've got my answer. So that is what it creates in us. That is the relationship. And now can I have the next slide, please? Okay, you've already got that. Okay, this is really the fundamentals that we go through in India. Officer, gentleman, and a leader. And a cadet to an average, above average individual. This is very important to know. We get people from all places. You have village school guys, you have residential school guys, you have foreign school guys. But in the first week or 2 weeks, everybody is leveled. And now we are dealing with above average everyone. So we have tests which are all progressive. For example, in the physical training, we have third, second, first. You have to do third class in all the apparatuses by the time you're going to go from second term to third term. Now, you cannot go from fourth term to fifth term if you have not done class 2 of all the tests. Because there is no give and take. There is no 1920 in our systems. So everyone must be at least there, if not more. That is the reason the NDA camps are physically actually quite tough. Our 6-term camp, which is called Camp Torna, is a 65-mile circuit. And now again comes the importance of making people comrades. Can I have the next slide, please? Every movement here is a competition. It is inter-squadron. So it is the last man who counts. See, there is no individual brilliance which has got any meaning. This is team elite. So comradeship is what you believe, and you've got to carry people. If a person is that day, his ankle is not working, you carry all his weight, distribute everything else, maybe even help him and go. But that's how camps are, right? So you carry on like that. Now, I don't think I'll go over these with you because these are only some of the qualities. But what I'd like you to look at the last one. It is not just to lead, but you have the capacity to be led. Only then you can lead, right? Now, when we went to war, I happened to go to war from very close to your institute. I was in Tamilpur. I was a captain then. And we went to war and we took the surrender in Chittagong. But the point is, if you didn't have battle drills and battle procedures, it's a very unique travel. Now, when you're in a mountain division, the transport you have is very little. So we were some in trains, some in vehicles, etc., etc. But that is where all these preparations keep coming. You're never unprepared for anything. That is the best part. During war, there are certain things I think I learned to evolve as far as my own identity is concerned. Because I was a staff officer, so I was support to the brigade commander. So I used to have 2 headphones of 2 radio channels on each ear. This one was for our forward battalions, and this one was for the divisional headquarters and things like that. And one day, actually, the brigade commander asked him, how the hell do you get up so alert every time there is a call? You seem to be fast asleep. And till then, I had not thought about it. And I said, nothing, sir. We just trained for it. Once I had a friend of mine who was with the United Nations. I believe you have a guy I met at lunchtime who's from United Nations doing a course with you. A Navy guy, ex-Navy guy. A Lieutenant Commander, I forget his name. Yeah. So one day, this friend of mine, Dr. Ratin Roy, and I'm talking about times, he went to IIT Madras those days. And then he went to US, studied, and then he got interested in biomedicine. That's what they called it then, that year. One day, he suddenly asked me, what the hell do you do that changes a person? I said, why do you ask this? Then he gave me a story. In a village in Tamil Nadu, there were 2 brothers, and these guys used to keep going. Bay of Bengal fisheries was a project he was overlooking. So he said, these 2 brothers used to be both good, very interested in all that. Once I went, the second brother was not there. So I asked him, where is Thangavelu? He said, oh, Thangavelu has joined the army, sir. He said, next time I went, which was probably about 7-8 months later, Thangavelu was on leave and he was also there. He says, I couldn't for the world of me think this was the same Thangavelu. He was methodical, he did his work in time, he asked the right questions, you were curious about how can I do something else. Now that's what evolving identity does for you in the armed forces. Okay. Then let me now take you off to the, before I go on to the civil life of mine. In the good old days, or very old days, education started in ashrams, right? Parents would send their students, send their children to the ashram, and the guru would teach them, etc. They stayed there and all that. One day, this Guruji reigns and things like that. And some of you, I hope you've heard this story before, because if you haven't, you must, and do keep it in mind. And it was raining, so he heard this heavy knocking on the door. So he said, must be the wind which is moving the door and things like that. But it was persistent. So he went down and opened the door, and there was a 7-year-old. So from inside, he said, who are you? No answer. Then he opened the door. There was a 7-year-old, rain-soaked. He said, that is the question. Who am I? Now, that is what you're all looking at. Once you know who you are and how much better you can be, I think you found the answer and found the route forward. This little boy grew up to be who is one of the most reputed and respected Indian philosophers and guides, gurus, is Adi Shankaracharya. Okay. Now, once I left the army, because of my other training and things like that, I did get people to take. And one of the promises I made myself, no job. For a job, the armed forces, very nice. After that, to do a work for somebody else was not my cup of tea. But I was lucky, Management Institute, self-development programs once a week. I used to teach in Center for Image Management Studies. You'll say, what is a Fauji doing like that? During my study leave, I did a lot of things. I taught at Times School of Journalism. I taught at Jamia Millia's MCRC, Mass Communication Research Center. Incidentally, I taught photography to those postgraduate guys. Aesthetics in photography is what I taught them. But it was great fun. It was experience all along. I kept my identity, but I think I kept evolving. And I interviewed a lot of people, about 50 bureau chiefs, but my standout interview was, I don't know how many of you have heard of this war correspondent called Melville DeMello. In fact, in the good old days, Republic Day and all, Melville DeMello was always the commentator. A brilliant guy. At that particular time, he was in the Sports Authority. So a lot of things I kept learning from these guys. Then when I met up with these three guys, Tarun, Gaurav, Ronnie, we exchanged notes, and suddenly Tarun, who was sort of like the MD, said, "Sir, day after tomorrow, there's a program in Jaipur. Gaurav and I were to go. If you go with him, then I can do some work here, which is very urgent. No problem." So I said, go. Never lose opportunities, guys. So I went. I just loved what they did because they used activities to learn. And we ran a cycle. Activity without any indications, self-reflection, discussion. If required, some inputs from us. If we needed to build a concept, then we would take a session. Like if we thought that that particular group needed to learn more about, say, the Johari window, or something like that, or we wanted to do a relationship problem in a corporate group, then we probably do a 5OB, and like that. So it was very nice. So I just adjusted with them. Their fourth partner came back and he got very interested in schools. And three of us kept questioning, we have never taught in a classroom. Who the hell are we to tell teachers how to teach? So it just didn't gel with us. It didn't gel okay with us. So we three of us broke off and we got two more very nice facilitators with us. And we started Expert Executive Education. And we used to do children's program before that anyway in the summer, but all based on outbound. Parents sent their children, handed them over to us in the railway station, and didn't know anything at all for those 9 or 10 days. Unless the parents' birthday or anniversary, or the child's birthday or anniversary, we used to make an effort to make them speak. Now, it was a huge responsibility. So when we started Expert Executive Education, we said no more children, too much responsibility. But within 2 to 3 months, we got so many letters, so many mails, so many calls from teachers, children, parents. So where do we go? Then we started InMe Learning after about 8 to 10 months. And it's rated in the top 3 outdoor-based programs in the world, InMe Learning. And we have a number of campuses in the country, north, south, west. We do things from scuba diving to skiing to Kata expeditions, surfing, normal rock climbing, everything. So it's a mix. But they're not activities for the heck of it. All activities are for learning. And also there was one school which took the, shall we say, the risk of trying out an innovation that I had started called the Classroom Outdoors, where a school's class, let's say class 8, came to our campus for those 4.5 days or 5 days. They did all our outdoor activities. It was a scheduling nightmare for us, but they also did their academic curriculum. But the rub here was we did not allow the teachers to use whiteboards or slides. No laptops, no computers, nothing. We are in nature. Teach. If they needed a whiteboard, then they had to satisfy us that they would need it for how many minutes, and then we would give it. So ultimately, guys, the evolution of an identity takes place because of the person. And the person remains as it is. And I think we keep on improving. And as they say, failure and success both are inevitable. So never give in, never give up. Thank you very much.